966.
We are speaking now with Maria Medvedeva, Vice President of Saudi Arabia and Bahrain for MasterCard, responsible for executing MasterCard's growth strategy and delivering innovative payment experiences for consumers and merchants for MasterCard in line with the Kingdom's Vision 2030. Maria, hello. Thank you for joining us on the 966. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's my honor to be here with you and to share my experiences of being in Saudi with your esteemed audience.
Well, we're delighted you're with us, Sheikha Maria. And we got a chance to visit with you beforehand. And let's just jump right into this. You have been with MasterCard for a number of years, but you just came over to Saudi 3 years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about all that? And I know, because I know all that is a lot of things. I know you've been very active, and it's an exciting time to be in Saudi Arabia.
It is exciting time. It is exciting time. Beyond that, I represent Saudi with pride, because for the past 3 years, the evolution of Saudi, as from a cultural standpoint, from the business standpoint, from the payments and immersive payment experiences, it has been just enormous. We've seen digitization rates going and soaring from being, let's say, in 12 and 15% in 2019 to almost reaching 62% current year. And beyond that, expectation is to reach 70 by 2030. We will be in 70 in the next 2 years. So our goals and the change of the goals of the country have evolved even further. Now we have Vision 2040, 2050, from every standpoint. I can tell you one story when I came here, and that's the reason why they called me Sheikha Maria, is that the ambassador of Saudi and on behalf of the Central Bank of Saudi and is myself. I actually see myself an individual who understands the regulations, who understands the payment ecosystem, who looks at the consumer experiences and looks at how do we evolve from consumer experiences. But beyond that, I am a mom. I have 2 children. We moved with the family and in a horse and a dog. We moved from Dubai locally here. We now been 3 years living in Saudi Arabia. My kids go to school. We look at local cultures, at traditions. We visit museums. I think every visitor which has come to Saudi from my corporate office has been with me to either history museum or the cultural museum. And I do it on purpose. I want them to understand the change, the evolution first, and what is required locally. I don't believe in application of global principles across all. I believe that the Saudi is very unique in its ability to progress and to evolve faster than other countries. It is seen from the recent IMF reports. It's seen from non-oil economy growth rates of being one of the top countries in G20 in terms of the growth. So the approach we have to take here as a company is also very different. We have to be more agile. We have to be more creative. We have to look at all the new experiences that could potentially elevate Saudi even further. Let me maybe talk about moving to Saudi first, Richard, right?
Because I think I'd love to hear that.
We've talked about that, and a lot of people, I get a lot of questions on my LinkedIn asking, how did you decide to move? In 2020, it was pandemic. It wasn't really, the vision was there. The vision realization offices were working, but implementation was still slow. In the first year I moved to Saudi, I remember there was an announcement that they opened 256 movie theaters. So you can imagine, like within a year, the situation has changed. We were allowed to drive. We have movie theaters opening. We had cultural concerts, the history museums. We have a very strong horse riding team. I'm a horse rider. We have quite strong football teams, which have been elevated by the recent players that have come in. So it's the evolution of the country was such that nobody could imagine me moving here with the children, the dog, and the horse as a place where you want to stay a long time. But now to try to take me back to any other country is much more challenging, because I actually believe this is a real economy. There is a huge opportunity, and it's now I look at how to, let's say, improve, and what else can we do to drive financial inclusion in this country? What else can we do to give consumers an understanding how of innovative solutions, data-driven solutions, AI-driven solutions? So it's an exciting time to be here.
Well, it's amazing your timing with the pandemic, not only personally, and I guess we should all. I mean, the most important question really is, where do you stable your horse?
Can you imagine? I start riding, my daughter is jumping, we are part of competitions. I really feel very blessed to have very strong people around us. It's also a great network environment because Saudis are very welcoming. And it's a warm and welcoming nation, but it's so diverse and unique. In my team alone, I can tell you I have maybe 8 types of Saudi, from inter-countries, inter-regions, inter-tribes. They're all different. The motivation, the ability to change the ability to navigate their minds is extremely challenging because every one of them is like an individual with its own individual culture. Certain people from Jeddah would focus on the breakfast meetings. People from Riyadh focuses on dinner and after dinner meetings. And business is done during this meeting. So it's very culturally diverse, and we have to recognize that this nation requires a different approach toward different people.
Well, let's talk about MasterCard, because you arrived at a fascinating time, and you mentioned inclusion. Because during that pandemic, a lot of what MasterCard is involved with now in Saudi Arabia, and I want you to elaborate on that, exploded. Digitization, point of sales, fintech, people using. I mean, it was almost like they gained 2 generations in 2 years in terms of moving along that timeline and progressing adoption rates. It really was an extraordinary period. And you arrived right at that time, working with MasterCard in this space. Can you tell us a little bit about, how MasterCard is positioning itself and what's it's chosen to be really involved with?
Richard, now that you brought up some of this evolution across POS devices, SMEs, we've reached 1.2 million SMEs in the country. I was talking to Monshat senior leadership. Monshat is our center or ministry for small and medium businesses. 1.2 million SMEs, over 70 fintechs, and half of them are licensed by central bank. We have 1.6 million devices currently. And frankly, you can even see on the street the sellers of the fruits having the POS machines. So the acceptance rates here are quite strong in terms of acceptance across the market, both debit and credit. So to give a very strong credit to the hard work done by Saudi Payments, by Sama, they really have spearheaded the efforts to digitize the country. Not only digitization on the card, but also digitization in terms of account to account. We have a very strong account to account system. Digitization in terms of fintech, we have a strong the P2P, which is fintech or digital neobank, STC Pay, that allows for P2P transactions. So the ecosystem here is quite developed in terms of the digitization as of 2023. When I came here as a MasterCard, and overall MasterCard has evolved over years. When you look at MasterCard and you look at the previous and how we previously positioned ourselves and how we are evolving as a brand, if someone asks me now where I work, I tell them I work for a fintech. So if I do not want to mention MasterCard, I say I work for a fintech. Then I elaborate that this is actually a financial payments fintech that innovates continuously and has a focus on financial inclusion. And beyond that, what MasterCard does and why it attracted me. Why I was a director of IT previously. I was part of IT. I'm a computer science. I'm a finance. Then I moved into turnarounds in finance, and then I moved to MasterCard. What attracted me to MasterCard, it's innovation. And it's not innovation in terms of just introducing new solutions without actual foundation, but it's a data-driven solutions, AI-based, data-driven. So the decisions in terms of introduction of something new to a market is not done without careful consideration from every standpoint in terms of the data points. When we consult our partners, we look at what is this from profitability standpoint, what is it from scalability standpoint. We look at all the different aspects of helping our partner banks to drive their businesses, because their business is our business, and we take it very personal. To give you an understanding further, we looked in the past 3 years, we've done massive expansion in Saudi. One of the key expansion areas is our multi-million-dollar investment into a local data center, both in Riyadh and in Dammam, and implementation of our technology, one of our key e-commerce technologies here in Saudi Arabia, to be positioned as a regional technology hub in the long term. So Saudi Arabia has become so interesting for us, because now we have a hub for all key technologies here that allows for better availability, better ability to change, to be more agile, because e-commerce and the technology is changing. And to be more agile, bringing the technology into the local centers, it's what makes the company exceed and be more locally relevant.
Well, you are also, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are also chairwoman of the MasterCard Arabia for Information Technology, which is a technology company headquarters. So it's separate. Correct. So this is, as you say, your background is IT, and you're chairwoman of what's the purview of this technology company?
So this technology company is specifically set to bring the key technologies on soil into Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has implemented the privacy law, and we are now fulfilling our obligation toward the Saudi. But beyond that, it's not even about regulatory environment where you must come on soil to operate some of your technologies. It's more about our commitment to the country and commitment to grow the business in this country. Because by bringing this technology on soil into Saudi, again, we allow for better resilience, better availability, because there is no dependency on the routes to other countries, and of course on more agility in terms of changes. When you want to implement a new change, traditionally you need to go to a corporate and then get this information. Now locally managed assets have a better agility embedded into that. So it's an exciting let's say partnership. We're working with local partners. We are committed to the country. We believe that this is just foundation. We may add all new technologies as the time progresses. So it's going to be just a foundation. But it's important to establish foundation. It has taken us over 1.5 years to come into this stage. And by next year, we will be officially announcing this opening of the center together with SAMA, together with the appropriate ministries, to really showcase our commitment to the country.
You referenced your commitment, MasterCard's commitment to the country. Can you talk a little bit? We were discussing it before we started recording. Talk a little bit about the makeup of your office and the growth of the MasterCard sort of workforce there in Saudi since you arrived.
Richard, that's my favorite topic, because whenever I tell anyone, and even our CEO, when he went into management committee and board levels, and he asked, what do you think is percentage of female penetration in Saudi? Team diversity. So Lucian, let's ask you, what do you think in Saudi is percentage of female in our local office in MasterCard?
If I had to guess, I would say maybe 30%.
Richard, let's ask you as well. So,
well,
what do you think is?
But that's a great guess, because overall in the economy, it's now about 36% in the general number. Yes.
So
I mean, that's a good guess.
Are you seconding my guess, Richard? You can pile on now.
Well, I think it's a guess. It's a guess founded in very good data.
Yeah.
So it's a legitimate guess.
So yes. So we are at about 45% currently.
Nice.
With a very strong, driven Saudi females. So we have when usually people ask this question, rarely at the board levels in US or in UK or in European world, they see female in these positions of power. But you're right, we are 35% overall penetration. Beyond that, our team seniority has extremely senior female leaders in MasterCard. It is not the same in the payments industry. It's not. I can tell you that there are areas of improvement, and we are working with GCC board organization, and we are working with the capital market authorities to look into not setting the quotes for female at board levels, but looking at how can we introduce a database of smart, educated, certified female to be available for the board and for the C-level positions. So even those type of steps are being taken, Lucien. So thank you for your guess. It was a very good guess. Normally people say 10%, so you're way above average. People tell me 10%.
I'm just glad I was below the real answer.
Yeah, I know. It was a good effort. So, Maria, it's interesting, and your point of emphasis reflects your understanding of the environment. We've had Dana Alajlani on the show. You may know Dana. She's co-chairman woman of the Women in Business Committee for the AmJam KSA. She's terrific, and she was terrific on the show. But she talked about exactly that. She said, "All right, we're getting penetration, we're getting women into the workforce, but that management level to the C-suite has a big gap in it."
Absolutely.
And so you put your finger right on that, and trying to differentiate MasterCard and saying, yeah, we have women in this space.
Richard, it's the massive issue that we have here as well. So you have very young, educated, younger female and male coming into the workforce, but the gap between the C-suite and this entering the workforce bright individuals is too large. So we are working as MasterCard and also as an individual. I actually believe in female diversity. I think different perspectives bring a different understanding to the business. We see, let's say, the ownership level, and we see business as our babies in some ways. I mean, all females see business as their babies, so we try to give the best to a child to grow, to raise the child. So when the client comes, I don't see them as a client. I see them as a child that require nurturing, let's say, financial support, then some type of innovation to grow, guidance to grow. So we as female have this ability to guide, right, to be guidance. And I'm sure that many smart men empower us to do so. So I can tell you that many of my bosses are just absolutely brilliant to empower us to do it. But at the end of the day, I think, you see, female leadership requires a lot of investment by a country in terms of training, certification. As I mentioned before, we have a couple of organizations here which is specifically focused on it. One of them is called GCC Board. It's the organization which is GCC based out of UAE and Saudi, driving specifically board memberships. I'm a member of the GCC Board organization, and as a part of that membership, we developing strategies how to create more certified female for the Saudi market, and how to provide those databases of certified female to the banks, to the other institutions, to increase their diversity on the board levels.
Now, is this separate from, you're also part of a top 30 women network in MENA?
That's right. That's correct. It's different. It's different organizations with exactly the same goal. Yes, it's quite different. So GCC Board drives the certified board members. The top 30 female also looks at senior C-suite membership, but as a part of top 30 organization, what we do, we highlight the magnitudes of the problem. We don't necessarily take steps to correct it. We highlight that magnitudes. We partner with different organizations to highlight the need for such, let's say, for such diversity. And the indexes that are, let's say, female-owned businesses, female-driven businesses, the board members, female board members. Then we present these findings to our capital market authority and other senior management teams, after we present the findings, the organizations like GCC board take steps to actually find and train and provide training courses for the female. So I'm blessed to be part of the entire process, the influence, the lobbying process, and the process of actually execution that needs to take place.
I'm loving this. But now we're going to do a rapid fire section here. You said you just came from a presentation, and you, by the way, you've been a speaker panelist for Seamless, AI Summit, Leap. I mean, so you're involved in all these major summits that are ongoing in Saudi Arabia. So kudos to you. But I sort of want to make sure we touch base on, because I love this in terms of your personal perspective on the value of your position and what you're trying to do in Saudi Arabia and why it matters in Saudi Arabia. This is gold. But let's talk about rapid fire. Let's talk about MasterCard, and let's talk about SMEs, and let's talk about e-gaming, and let's talk about fintech.
All right, let's start with the e-gaming.
All right, let's start with e-gaming. Let's start with, but how MasterCard is in the market.
Absolutely, it's my favorite topic. You've heard a recent interview of our prince, during which he said that most of the time he spends free time in gaming. I have my son who is into this. So one of the key points why I wanted this agreement with the Esports Federation, which was a massive agreement, it gave us exclusive rights to Gamers 8 participation and many key events with the Esports Federation. And thanks to Esports Federation, they truly created a new segment of business, esports business, right? We don't have a sports federation across the world. We have sports federations. This new segment, which has, let's say, I think it was at the time we were working with them, had 28 million users, but now it's reaching to way beyond 100 million. It's a very interesting segment, because when you look at this, when MasterCard start looking at the segment, seeing what's the average spend? The average spend of a segment is, let's say, $350 per month. What is the percentage of female versus male gamers? 47% of female gamers. Is
that right?
It's usually 1.4 billion impressions during any single Gamers 8 match. So if you can imagine the magnitude of that position that you have, the e-gaming of sport here, MasterCard wanted to let's say evolve itself to look at the passion points of our consumers. We have identified where gaming, football, tennis were all passion points, and to drive, and the economy has changed. The economy before was really consumer oriented in terms of retail. People went and bought things, without really looking at experience or what they were getting. They just were buying things. But currently consumers, as they post-COVID, specifically post-COVID, are now looking at enhanced experiences in their passion categories. So we call it an experience economy. So in our MasterCard Economic Institute, and we give our economic analysis and forecasts on a quarterly basis to Saudi customers, we call it that evolution to experience economy. And beyond that, as MasterCard, we believe in an immersive economy. So that means that even beyond just normal experience, now you have to look into metaverse, into meta-related aspects, because sooner or later, our kids and us will actually have that experience not only in a physical world, but in a digital world as well. So it's going to become phygital. Have you heard this word phygital before? I'm sure you have.
And metaverse, absolutely. It's fascinating to hear the lingo, and I say it's not a lingo, but every entity has a vocabulary. But passion points and experience economy, and it is interesting how MasterCard is positioning itself in this regard.
Absolutely, I think that this is where exactly what we are looking at. Even our brand. If you imagine us 15 years back, the brand was a standalone brand with no special features, no special feelings. Then our Raj, our CMO, and I was very blessed to host him twice in Saudi, has actually looked into evolution of the brand to look at all of the points of customer interaction. the smell, the face, the feeling, the smells, the hearing. So now we have a MasterCard song, and every culture has their own songs. We have actually Arabic song with Arabic undertones. We have a song which is MasterCard for Indian undertones. It's an amazing experience to hear an acceptance sound. We call it acceptance sound of MasterCard, and you pay in different countries because you have these different undertones. Have you noticed it, Lucian? Have you ever paid and you've heard this sound?
Like a little jingle, I guess. Yeah.
Like a little jingle, correct.
Yeah.
So behind the jingle, there is a whole new experience of actually a music behind that. You take next step. We have priceless restaurants. Richard, have you ever been to our priceless restaurant?
I have not.
But he wants to go, I can tell you.
He wants to go now, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've created this Priceless Platform, and Priceless Platform is all about giving you experiences. So part of the Priceless Platform, we have restaurants. We have actually even collaborations with La Dourie's, some of the cookies that they produce. I mean, the imagination of what the change of the brand, right? We removed the names. So the change of the brand, the appeal to different senses of the human is the same as appealing to their passion point. So appealing to senses is what we've done to transform the brand and put a priceless platform. And then appeal to the human passion points is what we do locally here to drive. And you will hear and you will see, we are launching a major football co-brand by the end of this month. It's going to come to the market. It will be a joint effort of our key banks with a massive football team, with the benefits which would drive that passion of the fans of that football team, with a very, very famous player. We are launching an e-gaming card that actually appeals again to the gaming efforts of our kids, the youth. So the youth card. So what we look at specifically, we are launching certain travel cards that again appeal to the travel passion of people. And I can guarantee you that not in a single country, the value proposition of these cards are as rich as in Saudi, because we take steps to understanding the market, understanding the consumers, and then embedding those differentiated propositions for these passion points of the consumers.
It's
so
really
that's that's your response.
Well, and it's again, to go back to the beginning, MasterCard's headquartered in Purchase, New York, and its operations are in St. Louis. As I said, there's certainly a perception in a lot of places it's kind of an old line firm, but here you guys are anything but old line. And it's fascinating how you're tailoring it to Saudi Arabia. You talk about immersive experience, and so much about the tourism industry now is more young Saudis going, well, we want to go someplace, we really want to experience it. And, it's more than just a sort of a destination. I'll show up and cross that off. They want to go and do things and experience things. Obviously getting into football, which is truly a passion point in Saudi Arabia.
Of course.
And we're all now, Lucian and I, we've covered a lot of football on this show. So we're all interested. We're both interested in which football club you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
I cannot disclose now, but
I understand.
I understand. We have 10 million of fans.
You'll have to come back on.
Just waiting for me to announce. and this will be the massive. We had a very interesting story here when we were selecting with each club to partner. One of our key ministers, Turkey, Al Sheikh, he's a minister of entertainment. And if you're talking about football, he is the one who is behind a lot of this great entertainment of Riyadh season and really bringing new concerts and really making vibrant society as a part of our society. So he has actually one time on Twitter published a poll of donations for key clubs. And he said, here are you clubs, and now donations. So now show us who will donate, which club you like the most. And there's only one club that had the highest donations, and we will be partnering with that club with the amount of people and the fans that actually supported the club the most.
Well, it could be the oldest club in the country too.
No, it could be. I cannot disclose right now.
We're gonna try. You can't stop us from trying.
Yeah. Look, I live. I can tell you, I live with the 4 or 5 of football players, because in Saudi we still live in a lot of kind of community type of livings, and I have a lot daily interactions with a lot of football players, and it's brilliant to see how passionate people are in that area. Very passionate.
It is. By the way, I think Turkey Al Sheikh is not really Minister of Entertainment. He's sort of Minister of Everywhere, because it seems like he is everywhere.
He does seem to be everywhere. And you've seen the recent Riyadh season announcements, and one of our key largest stakeholders, Saudi National Bank, it's our biggest partner in the region. It's actually investing heavily in Riyadh season. So we will be also introducing some new, let's say, UEFA based, and this I can share because already we have launched it, but we will be introducing the first in Saudi UEFA card. So really? With that card, the citizens or our lovers of football can get priceless experiences, meeting our ambassadors. MasterCard ambassadors, getting jerseys, going on the fields. So as a part of that card, which will be, let's say, promoting during the Riyadh season, we will also give ability to drive more passion. I mean, because that's what I said, Richard, it's all about understanding the people and then touching upon passion points. When I came here first, that's exactly the first thing I published on LinkedIn. I said, I will appeal to everyone for their passion points. That's my goal in life as a MasterCard, to understand you and to give you what you need. Gaming, football, this is what drives the passion points. So that is where we are, where we made a major bet as a company. We invested resources, we invested money, financials to support in this type of initiatives.
And it must be exciting. You mentioned the Crown Prince and his love for esports, and the announcement of this esports World Cup next year is, the largest one in the world. And of course, they're already, Gamers Aid is a big deal, and so that's fascinating. Are there any other sectors of the economy, you passion points, football, e-gaming, that MasterCard is targeting?
So the second question, you remember rapid fire, you asked me about fintechs, and fintechs is another very interesting area, which is on the high rise, on the growth, not only because the goal of Saudi Vision 2030 is to onboard 500 fintechs by 2030, but because they bring diversity in terms of the offerings, they bring innovation, they bring agility. Now we've been licensed, let's say, 2 BNPL fintechs, 4 open banking fintechs. So all of these new innovative solutions, they're coming through the fintechs. And central bank, SAMA, and Saudi payments are encouraging fintechs to really bring something new. We have seen a very interesting launch over a weekend of Tikmo. Tikmo is a new super app that is on the internet. I've seen just launch 2 days back. There was just incredible launch with different offers. It's a super easy to use app. So since we don't have entities like Monzo, like Revolut, or like other with smaller money institutions, we had massively been covered by STC Pay. The new fintechs which are coming in are really differentiating their applications, bring a different experience to consumers. So I'm encouraging Twig, Tikmo, JD. We have massive amount of new fintechs, and an interesting concept in fintechs, which is something that I haven't seen in other countries, is that along with the consumer-based fintechs, we have also a series of fintechs which specialize in SME value-added services and in a corporate value-added services. So some fintechs are focused on being a right hand or co-pilots of CFOs. So it's not only consumer experience that gets improved, but moving now from, let's say, from consumer to SMEs. We have 1.2 million SMEs. Our corporate flows, or let's say B2B flows in this market, is reaching $300 billion. And even if you decide to digitize a small percentage of those flows, you will have a very strong business case to be present in this market. Okay?
Well, and
I think,
sorry, go ahead.
I think for fintechs, but adding value both on consumer and on the commercial, it's really now diversifying this experience.
And you do have a lot of partnerships. You mentioned GDIA and Saudi National Bank.
Simplified finance, yes.
Fintech Saudi, yeah.
Yes, Fintech Saudi. I have to give them a credit. They actually have really taken a next level of introducing local regulations, local cultural norms, local rules to the fintechs who would like to come here from abroad. So we work very closely with Nizar, who is running Fintech Saudi, and he is really active in the community, spearheading the initiative to bring the foreign fintechs into Saudi market as well. So fintechs from UAE, fintechs from UK, and really helping them to play in a SAMA sandbox and really differentiate themselves. First test in a sandbox, look at your value story, if it's working, and then bring it to the market.
The sandbox has seemed to be a really a good environment for incubating. Yes. And they've moved through, I don't know how many have been certified now, in the 50s now, I think.
Yeah, more than that. My recent meeting with Nizar, he was giving me numbers about 100, which I was very surprised because just 2022 report showed 29. And by 2023 October, we have 100 plus.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about we talked about, let's return back into sort of the environment in MasterCard and Her Voice, things that you've involved with. What is the Her Voice program?
It's a brilliant program set to empower first female individual entrepreneurs, and then we have taken the next step with Her Voice to elevate to the platform to be the voice for all the SME, female-owned SME businesses. So it started with us just running a podcast, with us starting the podcast series for some influential local female, including princesses, that actually overcame the cultural norms, overcame the family norms, built up their own companies, and really became successful in variety of different business segments. So it is not payments related. We had ladies from consulting, medical equipment, ladies who were into travel. So we brought together ladies which really were successful across all segments to present their stories. And some stories were just unbelievable, right? You understand the story of resilience, resilience and the ability to overcome all challenges to achieve your objectives. I have a very good friend who, Latifa Al-Walan. Latifa created the first Saudi Arabic coffee machine. She was inventor on it. And she is running or leading Endeavor right now. But even hearing the stories of her, how she elevated herself from creating the first Saudi coffee machine, selling this, trying to get a loan, going through the difficulties of taking a loan from the family, friends, or from the bank, and then making it in this world and being one of the top influential female of the Saudi really changes your mindset. And this year, we took this platform and created a more elevated experience of female who own massive companies. And they said, let's look at this not just simply as an individual female contributors, but female-owned businesses, and how can we help those female-owned businesses to grow? One of the key areas for MasterCard is not only helping SMEs, but actually having a direct implication on economy through the improving lives of female. So this platform allows us to elevate Saudi female across the market.
How much is buy now, pay later on your radar? Is that one of your top growth areas that you guys are seeing now? We know it's really hot in the Saudi market. Are you guys zeroed in on that?
Lucian, it's a great question, because you have two sides to every story. You have one side that absolutely dismiss BNPL as any revenue generating or any value added aspect, and then you have another side which looks at it as a more of an asset building, or let's say more of a auxiliary tool to build certain strategies with your portfolio of products within the banking sector. So it's two separate organizations. I mean, it's two separate line of thoughts. I see it as both. I see the fact that while potentially it has an implication on the NPLs and on the profitability, it also brings a different consumer experience and increases the stickiness from consumer standpoint. We as MasterCard has set up a new platform, which is currently we are implementing in Saudi. It's one of our first platforms, which actually allows for profitability and at the same time for consumer experience. I think that's the right approach to proceed. I cannot give more details about the platform, but in principle, I believe it combines both views. In Saudi, though, so for you to also be aware, only two fintechs are allowed to operate BNPL as a functionality. The banks are allowed to implement installment solutions, controlling within their DBR rates, but the fintechs are allowed, based on fintech regulations and waiver to fintech regulations, to issue BNPL. So it's very important for entities to understand that you must be licensed to be a BNPL player in Saudi. There are, I believe, 4 or 5 now, but you cannot just introduce BNPL without a license in place.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to give a shout out right now to SciFi App. Ahmed Al-Hakbani is the CEO. His Excellency Ahmed, who's head of customs for a while for Saudi Arabia. They have an amazing partnership with you guys at MasterCard. And I talked with him recently, and he was like, they are the best partner in Saudi. You can't imagine how lucky we feel for that. So just a quick shout out on that.
Thanks, listen. And on that, remember the entity I was talking about when I said that co-pilot to CFOs? So that is his app.
Oh, you were talking about SciFi. Okay, cool. I was like,
I was talking about this is his app, because I've seen a lot of different apps, and I've seen apps from different regions, and I'm very blessed with my current boss, Adam Jones, who comes from commercial experience and who've seen a lot of fintech innovation and shared with me fintech innovations in across the globe, because he used to run commercial and SME globally. And currently he also relocated to Saudi. And sometimes when we unpack all of these different use cases and we share these use cases, some of the entities like SciFi truly differentiate itself in the market, really truly offer global differentiation. Not even, so we took the best practices, we took global best practices and they just enhance on it. And that's the most amazing thing Saudis can do. They take global best practices, they enhance on them, and they make their own, let's say, customized rules.
And localize them. Yeah.
And localize them.
Yep.
Yes.
We've talked about this on the show before, and fourth IR issues and that sort of thing. But the sort of inherent advantage sometimes of coming to the game late, you don't have legacy systems that you're necessarily having to work through. You can take with best practices and adapt them going forward. I mean, there are significant advantages. We talked a little bit, Maria, before we started recording about your regional HQ situation. It's testimony, you bringing your family from Dubai, loving Saudi Arabia, loving where you are. Where's MasterCard in the regional HQ process?
Richard, it's a very good question. We are working very closely with MISA to understand the regulatory aspects, because as you know, the regulation has been out, and we're working with the Chamber of Commerce to go in depth into this regulation. Because as Saudi is now said, we are the headquarters for 6 countries. That's why our senior management, the executive senior management, myself as a country manager, as a chairwoman, our regional manager sits here in Saudi, our solutions and architecture manager sits here. So We are our technology managers, everyone who is the top leadership positions, they sit here in Saudi Arabia. So we have already relocated everyone, and they build up the office to almost reaching 100 people. So we consider ourselves to be in some way headquarters, but there are some very specific requirements from a regulator that we need to understand further, to understand the taxation, to understand the implication of headcounts and the resource hiring. And of course, we are fully committed, so we are looking at this more deeply to understand how fast we can reach to the regulatory requirements.
And where are you guys? Like, where's your HQ there? Are you guys in the financial district in Riyadh?
We are not. We are in Hamad Tower. We are in Hamad Tower next to Faisalia. Not yet in financial HQ in KAFT, but KAFT is an interesting project, and they have been growing tremendously under the leadership of Gautam Sashetal. So I don't know if you know his story, but Gautam comes from DMCC in Dubai, and he took this variety of experiences and his knowledge of DMCC to implement the best practices, and truly he also transformed it. Just like we've transformed our presence in the market, the KAFT, which is King Abdullah Financial District, has also become a dining destination, a destination for the families. They're opening the park, so it's also the first place I take is History Museum. The second I take it to KAFT, to my restaurants. And since I'm a foodie, I like food. So I like a variety of very specific food. So that represents for me a great opportunity for differentiated food offering.
We did an episode with Gautam, and he's a dynamo, and we're big fans of KAFT. I mean, it's impressive. I think everyone should move there, and they've done some enormous, really, really impressive things. So that's an interesting thing. Let me ask you something a little bit about MasterCard. And I guess we don't want to take too much time. I was curious, and I just saw in the culture in MasterCard, you have something called a decency quotient.
Oh yes.
And I thought, what is a decency quotient in terms of a corporate culture? What is decency quotient?
You see, it comes from Ajay Banga. So our decency quotient is not even a value; it's just underlying foundation. Is how you behave yourself with your colleagues. So we have a value system, that corporate value system that has been established by the current CEO, Michael Mibach. But Ajay, he brought the foundation of decency. And I really, really loved it. This was a new concept. When I first joined, I felt so protected as a human being. Frankly, when you enter a working environment, a corporate environment, very often you don't feel protected. You feel that you would receive different, let's say, negative and positive feedback. And sometimes feedback is noise, and it really disturbs you or distracts you from achieving your goal. But with decency in mind, and if you are decent to your colleague, then it's much easier to operate. And I felt that this was part of every human being I worked with in MasterCard, just pure decency, that we will not stab, we will not talk behind you, we will be open with you, we will give you the guidance, the ability to actually meet the objectives. So Ajay, who was here during the FII, Ajay Banga was just here. He is now running the World Bank. We're very proud of it. He just met with our Sama governor. He met with Minister of Planning on sidelines of FII. Ajay has this decency as just, it's throughout him. When you listen to his speech, when you listen to his, let's say, world understanding, world views, you feel it, that it comes from how can we be more decent, more human toward each other and toward the world from a climate standpoint, from financial inclusion. He was the one who was driving all of his key initiatives in MasterCard. And we continuously, Michael has taken from him and enhanced it even further. So we don't even carry decency quotient as a value anymore. It's just foundation of what we do, of our beliefs.
Love that. Maria Medvedeva, Vice President, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain for MasterCard. Just a really wonderful conversation, Maria. Thank you so much for your time. This was wonderful.
Listen, Richard, thank you for giving me the opportunity. First of all, to showcase the evolution of Saudi within Vision 2030, the evolution and agility of MasterCard being a fintech, and how MasterCard has evolved in this bigger picture. And also, of course, my personal experience in Saudi. And I hope that many would benefit from this conversation.